What's up, Commanders fans? Welcome into another episode of the Command Post. I'm Brian. That's Trev. We're
So,
excited to be back. Episode number 2 coming your way. And it's kind of like the lull before the big storm. A lot of stuff coming up with this team, with this organization, all kinds of good stuff coming your way. But Trev, how are you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. It's spring has sprung, I think, at least for some of us. I heard you were battling the flu the last week down there in Atlanta. That sucks.
Yeah, man. You can probably hear it all nasally. I already don't like the way my voice sounds, so I add in a little sinus congestion, and it just adds to the perfect storm there.
There you go. But other than that, I'm good. Just patiently waiting for the draft to get
No
here. So we
doubt,
can
man. We're
uh,
recording this the week of the 7th. It's April 8th, dating ourselves here. So we are a week out from new uniforms. We are
yep.
2 weeks and a day out from the draft. You and I, we were just talking about it. We will be up at Northwest Stadium Thursday night. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a big party. Hopefully, see a bunch of fans out there. Hopefully, get to meet some people. And hopefully, at least one of us get our mock drafts right and get our pick at number 7.
Yes,
And
sir.
then uh, a watch party on Saturday night as well. Sounds like we might have to check that out too. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. A big couple of weeks that roll right into summer, roll right into preseason, roll right into the regular season. Before you know it, we're talking real football.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. But until then, on this episode today, we're gonna do like a deep dive in free agency. And I think today we're gonna start with the offensive side of the ball. So I
Yeah.
guess we can get right into that if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. We know some of the moves that this team has made. We talked about it last time. I think overall they set themselves up really nicely for that first round pick at pick number 7. Could be offense, could be defense. I love the way that they went and that they have made some really solid moves to
Mhm.
set themselves up really nicely to where even if they didn't add anybody, which we know that they're going to in the draft with 6 draft picks, I
Right.
feel like this team could be ready to go when it's all said and done. But yeah, let's talk about that offense. We
Yes,
know
sir.
that this team sorely lacked playmakers. Jaden
Mhm.
Daniels goes down for a bunch of time. Terry McLaurin misses a bunch of time. And at one point, it was just Bill and Debo with guys that you could really kind of trust out there. And then, of course, Zach Ertz and Marcus Mariota. And that was about it. I think
Yeah.
the floor of this offense has been raised with some of the moves they've made. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see those guys right there. And don't forget, like, subscribe,
Yes.
rate, review, all that good stuff. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Instagram, Twitter. We're all there, all those places, so you can watch or listen. But let's dive into that offense.
Yeah.
What are you thinking with some of these moves? Some of the guys that they have brought in to hopefully raise the level of this offense.
Well, if you're watching to start off, we've got Jeremy McNichols, we've got De'Ami Brown up there, we've got offensive lineman Chris Paul, got Jerome Ford up there, we've got Rashad White, Van Jefferson, and I put Treylon Burks up there too on this graphic. Obviously, honestly, for this offense, it was ho hum to be quite honest and blunt. I'm happy with the Rashad White signing because I think our running back room could use another spark and some more experience back there. I mean, he did play with Tom Brady, I think, or I can't remember if he did or not. Maybe 1 year, but he has a Super Bowl at least. So I like that. The Van Jefferson move, I don't. It feels like we're still trying to reach and find who our number 2 receiver is to pair next to Terry McLaurin. There was a lot of rumblings out there about Brandon Ayuk with his drama. We'll get into that some other time, but just focus on what we've signed already. Treylon Burks, I love that re-signing. Um, that graphic right there shows that unbelievable one-handed catch he caught against the Broncos, I think. We almost beat them too. I think he's a great red zone threat that we have lacked over the past few years. Now that Zach Ertz is gone too, so I think him and Chig. I didn't announce him. He's in the middle up there. Chig Okonkwo. I can't always
Conquo, yeah.
the tight end from Tennessee. I think he'll be a good red zone threat along with Treylon Burks. Don't need Treylon Burks to be every snap receiver, but just red zone snaps, possession snaps, big third down plays would be good for him. Jeremy McNichols, we got Jerome Ford. I feel like those two are kind of like the same type of running back. Jeremy McNichols was great for us last year, getting those crucial third and ones, third and shorts, third and fourth and less, always moving the chains. He was very, very hard to bring down. He's an NFL
Yep.
journeyman though, but it seems like he's found his niche here in Washington. Jerome Ford, kind of the same thing. Uh, kind of a bell cow back in Cleveland a little bit, got the third down yardage, got some touchdowns, can bowl people over. Maybe he takes the role of a Chris Rodriguez that we
Right.
let go, and Jeremy still has his role, so that's gonna be interesting. Chris Paul's great.
Yeah.
Ryan loves him, Laramie Tunsil loves him. He's
Yeah.
great for protection, and then De'Ami Brown, bringing him back, I thought he was really coming on at towards the end of 2 years ago when we made the playoffs. That deep catch against, I think, Detroit kind of blindly, he caught it, and he's a good deep threat, so but overall, it nothing really made me go, "Wow," like,
Mhm.
"Great," but we didn't have Jaden last year for the most part, so maybe with these new weapons and Jaden, we could create something special.
Yeah, I think these moves certainly raise the floor. I think, De'Ami Brown, Van Jefferson, and Burks aren't gonna wow you at the receiver position, but that means guys like Chris Moore and Robbie Chosen, no
Mhm.
offense to them, but they're not gonna be out there as your receivers 2 and 3, even some weeks 1 and 2, you know what I
Right.
mean? So, this floor is definitely, raised. I don't know that wide receiver 2, like you said, is even on this roster yet. I've seen plenty of Carnell Tate being mocked. We mentioned Brandon Ayuk. I still think that they could add in one way or another to that wide receiver room,
Yeah.
but alas, you have guys that have done it in big situations, like you mentioned. You have guys that have produced before, and that you couldn't say that last year, and that's huge. For me, this offseason, these free agent signings have been about raising what you did last year, getting yourself better depth, and I think they did that. You mentioned Jerome Ford,
Mhm.
Rashad White, Jeremy McNichols. I agree. None of them are like wow, but they're guys that can make plays that can get the job done, that can pair with Bill and with Jaden that rushing attack and make you a threat there on the ground. Like even if you don't bring in Jeremiah Love, even if you don't bring in another young running back, you feel pretty good with that rushing attack.
Yep.
Despite their struggles, this team still ran the football relatively well. So you have to imagine adding in a couple more vets like Rashad White and Jerome Ford. That those numbers are going to continue to be better. Again, hopefully with a healthy Jane Daniels. And Zach Ertz was always Mr. Reliable, but I love the fact they got more athletic with Chigakonkwo.
Mhm.
I think he's going to be huge for them. I think they can use him in a bunch of different ways. I don't know that he's your typical on the line tight end, but he can make plays returning to the DMV area, which is really cool. So, yeah, I really like what they did. I agree with you. There's no stud out there that they added. They maybe went for that in Alec Pierce. They might have, kicked the tires on a couple of guys, but I like what they're doing as a whole. I think it complements what they're already doing really well. And then you mentioned Chris Paul and even the Laramie Tunsil extension. Those are almost like bringing in free agents or re-signing your guys to where you have that continuity.
Mhm.
I love on the offensive line the fact that you have mostly the same guys coming back. Obviously, they moved on from Tyler Biotish, maybe a bit of a question mark, but Nick Allegretti's been there. He's played center for you with Jaden Daniels. So I just love the fact that they're adding continuity, that they're adding guys that Jaden is familiar with, even bringing back De'Ami Brown, who, like you said, had a really good postseason. I like what this offense can do. I think that David Blau with a young play caller is going to have a lot of different ways to go about this. It's going to take some of the pressure off of him. And I think that's all you can ask for with a young quarterback and a young play caller. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this offense.
I agree too, and we mentioned earlier that, well, last season, we never really got a chance to see what our team was because everybody was hurt.
Yeah,
Jaden would play 2 weeks with Terry and Debo, and then the next week he wouldn't play with Debo, and then the next week Jaden wouldn't play, Terry wouldn't play, but Debo was out there with Mariota, so it's like we never really got to see what Jaden could do his 2nd year with some talent, but now it's pretty much a brand new team again, and he's gonna have to repeat, I guess, at least try to repeat what he did the first year he was here with us when he took us to the NFC Championship, where he had to build that chemistry, build that continuity from the ground up. And I feel like he's gonna kinda have to do that a little bit more so this season. We brought in Rashad White. Of course, he played with him in Arizona State, so they've got some chemistry. Hopefully, Terry can be fully healthy this year. But yeah, we just need that explosive element outside of Jaden Daniels to add to this offense, and I think that could really propel us. David Blau's offense with these moves that we made in the offseason with free agents, it's kinda I'm kinda confused on what the offense is gonna look like. People said they modeled it, from Ben Johnson's days in Detroit, and he's been around some other good offensive minds in the league, but I like Debo. I really wish we brought Debo back. Yeah, he had some injuries, but he's that kind of like DJ Moore type receiver that I think would be great in a David Blau offense. So because they kind of use Amon-Ra St. Brown like that in Detroit, and they used DJ Moore like that when Ben went to Chicago before he got traded away. So I just want to see it somebody to come in like that in the receiver room. And if we get Jeremiah Love, he could do that.
Mhm.
I think if we go get another receiver like the Omar Coopers out there, the Jordan Tysons, the Carnell Tates, or somebody else in the later rounds of the draft that could be that type of player on offense, I think that will provide another spark that we're missing.
Yeah, I'm curious on Debo. I wonder if just the market hasn't played out for him. He had a really solid season last year. When he's expecting to come in and play with Jaden Daniels, the fact that he spent more time with Marcus Mariota, still had he was 70 something receptions, 700 yards, and I think like 5 touchdowns. Like, you'll take that all day long. And so I'm curious, maybe if they don't take Carnell Tate or one of those guys with the top pick, if Brandon Ayuk doesn't materialize, which I think we all still think might happen, but the 49ers, and maybe this is an unpopular take, but why would the 49ers help you out? I don't think they're in any rush, and I don't think they have any right to be in any sort of rush. So,
No,
maybe down the line, does Debo Samuel come back? Because I do think he makes a lot of sense. Like you said, you can use him in a bunch of different ways. And with the addition of some of these running backs, with an addition of a pass catching tight end, you're not asking a whole lot out of Debo like we saw early in the season last year, would that allow you then to use him a little bit more on special teams, which you couldn't do when all of a sudden he was your wide receiver one with Terry McLaurin missing so much time? So I agree with you. I'm kind of curious if maybe that materializes down the line where you bring back Debo Samuel. But yeah, I'm curious what they're gonna do with this offense. I've heard Ben Johnson, I've heard maybe, a different, a multiverse option out of Cliff Kingsbury. They
mhm.
do seem to have a bunch of different ways that they could attack this with the rushing attack, a bunch of different receivers, albeit not a real alpha outside of Terry McLaurin. I think they like what they have in Chigakonkwo, obviously, Ben Sinnott, John Bates, Colson Yankoff. I've heard Lawrence Cager's name mentioned, so you have a bunch
Yeah,
of tight ends. We saw what Sean McVay, and then you mentioned Ben Johnson. I feel like the tight end is an underrated part of their offenses as well.
yeah.
Could they give you a couple of heavy looks and then, do some different things out of that? So, I agree with you. I don't know as we sit here in the beginning of April what the offense is gonna look like, but I do think that there's gonna be a multifaceted attack, and, it'll be interesting to see, and I think we'll get some more answers as we go into, mini camps, training camps, what this is gonna look like.
I mean, you might have already touched on this, but I already asked it, but the ticker down there says, "Did we get better or worse with the free agent offseason moves we made?" What do you think? I wanna ask you first.
I think you got way better. Like I said, I think I keep saying it. You rose the floor of this team to where right now I know it's only April. We're still 5 months away. We still have draft picks to make, probably a couple more free agency signings, but you could go into the season with this team and feel pretty good about it. And I think you could feel better than you did last year. I don't think there was any like wow headline snatching moves, but I do think you're way better. What are your thoughts?
I think we did get better. If we had to trot the team out there today, I think that we could put up some points. Or, of course,
Yeah,
everyone helped. I mean, that's obvious, but I think we could put up some points. Um, I think that we still are lacking that explosive on offense, but I
yeah.
do think we got more sound, we got faster, we got, a little bit younger on the offense side of the ball too. But if we had to try it out today, I think we could win 8 to 9 games, and that's just today in April. We
Right.
won 5 last year. So far, I think if we went out there today, we would get 8 to 9 games.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the familiarity. I
Yeah,
think Jaden gets better as the game goes on, especially when he can get into a rhythm. So when you're surrounding him with guys that he knows and has a rapport with Rashad White and De'Ami Brown and potentially with an asterisk next to it, Brandon Ayuk, uh,
right.
I think if they can stay healthy, which is a huge thing, especially last year, but if they stay healthy, that they can get in more of a rhythm, build on some of the stuff that they were able to do, because that was part of it last year, right? You had a really solid game against the Chargers. It looked like you were rounding into form. You have a couple of good moments. You mess a couple things up against the Bears, but then against the Cowboys, it all just started to unravel. Jaden gets hurt. You couldn't build that rhythm. I think that'll be so huge. And that's why I think it's so cool to see that Jaden, Terry, Rashad White, I believe De'Ami Brown was also out there. They're already working together, and that's huge that you're able to do that. You think back to last year, Diami's not on the team, Rashad White's not on the team, Terry McLaurin's dealing with his contract. They're not able to do that kinda off-season work together. The fact that they're already doing that 5 months out from meaningful games, I think
Mhm.
that's huge, and I think that'll be, it's a little thing, but it'll go a long way to righting the ship and getting it back to 2024 and beyond.
What do you think this off-season free agency so far signifies? Do you think that these moves mean, like, we're trying to save Dan Quinn's job for another year or 2, or do you is it a it's not really a win now mentality, at least for the offensive side of the ball, it's not. We'll get to defense on the next episode, but what do you think this means for Dan Quinn and the future of the Commanders right
I think you're setting up your core. I mean, I know Terry McLaurin, you got questions about him past this season, but
now?
you re-sign Laramie Tunsil, but then a lot of them are 1-year deals, but then like a Chigakonkwo, I think that was a multi-year deal. So I don't think that I think you're setting yourself up for this season, obviously, but I think there are some foundation and some building blocks down the line. I think that's the way any smart team would do it. I don't think you should go all in for 1 year. I think they kinda did that last year, and obviously, when a couple of things don't go your way, that bites you in the butt.
Yeah.
But I think that they're healthily setting themselves up for the future while still being competitive right now, while still taking advantage of Jaden Daniels' rookie contract. So,
Mhm.
I think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are in a pivotal year. The first year was awesome. You kinda took the league by storm, probably were a little ahead of schedule. Last year,
Yeah.
you're taking a big step back, so which one are you? You saw 2 opposite ends of the extreme. Which one are you? So I think that they are setting up nicely for this year, but I do think that they're set up for the years to come. I think it will be interesting with these draft picks if you do go offensive side of the ball, since we're focusing on offense. That gives you another guy who is controllable for 4 to 5 years, and that gives you another building block. You would think so. There's a lot that still remains to be seen, but I do think that they have almost a split vision. They're ready for this year, but they do have a couple of chips on the table that are gonna last them through, the next few years
Yeah.
and hopefully with some more success.
I agree. I think they set it up so no matter who's gonna be coaching the next 2, 3 years, they have some foundation pieces to get where they wanna go. I agree with that. Alright,
Yeah,
Brian, it's
no,
time to talk about the best and worst offensive free agent signing. We have to do it.
yeah,
Even though we sat here and glazed all of them, we have to pick which one's the best in our opinion and which one's the worst. I'm gonna go first on this one.
yeah.
So, for me, who the best offensive free agent acquisition we got, I think it would have to be Chig, to be honest. Our tight end room was getting old. Our best tight end was Zach Ertz, and he's old, and then he blew out his knee into the season towards the season. John Bates can catch some passes, but he's probably one of the best blocking tight ends in the game, which is
Yep.
good. And then you mentioned Colston Yankoff, practice squad guy, and then Lawrence Cager, whose name's coming up a lot. I don't know if that's just because that's all we have right now on the roster and Dan
Right.
Quinn doesn't have anything else to talk about, but he's there. But now we have a true tight end at the tight end position in Chig. He mentioned in his interview with Brian Colbert on Next Man Up, he talked to them during interviews about how he'd be featured, and he's going to be supposed to be featured week 1 and
Yeah.
actual run real routes and catch real passes and be a true tight end. So I love that interview. I love his hunger. I watched some of his tape. He's athletic. I was kind of hoping for a David Njoku kind of guy, to be honest, but I think he's a younger version of him. Same body type, pretty much huge, athletic, returned to the DMV. So in my opinion, I think the best offense would be Chig because we really didn't After Zach Ertz, we has a big question mark at a pass catching tight end, and now we just addressed that quickly. So, and he's
Yeah.
young.
Yeah, Zach Ertz, you love what he gave this team and how much of a safety blanket he was
Yeah.
for Jane Daniels, but he was limited. Once he caught the ball, that was kinda it, and there were a
No
lot
game
of times
back,
when
bro.
yeah, there were a lot of times when he fell short of the line to gain, and I would get a little frustrated,
Mhm.
but I think that you've improved that. You definitely got younger, you got a guy that you think can catch and run, which is huge in that position. To not be boring, because I think that Chig, obviously, the money they paid him, I think he would be, the top pick. I'm gonna go with Rashad White. I think
Okay.
that he fits in really nicely. I think there I think there are a bunch of different ways this could go, hopefully all positive. You know, if Bill regresses, he is
Mhm.
a 7th round pick. It's hard to expect him to have 8 touchdowns again next year,
Right.
800 yards, but maybe
Right.
with a little more steady flow, that number could improve, don't get me wrong. But I think
Mhm.
Rashad White, we've already seen he was kinda the featured guy there before Bucky Irving got to Tampa Bay. We saw what he was able to do. We saw what he can do out of the backfield. And then when Bucky Irving came in, obviously, I think every running back, I think every player wants to be on the field, wants to be the guy, but he did such a nice job of being a complementary piece to Bucky Irving. And then when Bucky Irving, being a big fantasy football player, I know that Bucky Irving was out for a good stretch last year, and Rashad White was fully capable of stepping in there.
Mhm.
So I say all that because I think that there's a world where he could be your leading rusher. I don't know if that's ideal, but he's definitely gonna contribute in the passing game. I think it's safe to say he's gonna lead your backfield in receptions. So I think that he's gonna complement really nicely with Bill. If they go and get Jeremiah Love as well, I think he's a great spell back. He can spell Jeremiah Love for the
Okay.
breathers that he needs and not take a big step back. So I'm really excited about what he can do. And then we've already mentioned it, the fact that he has a relationship with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
You don't want to tailor everything to the people that Jaden Daniels knows, but it's not a bad thing to have a guy that knows him and has known him and knows his tendencies. And
Mhm.
and you hope that this is a 1 year deal for Rashad White. You hope that he's signing a multi-year deal with hopefully with the Commanders, but somewhere else in the league after this year because he takes them by storm and proves that he's a do everything kind of back. So I'm really excited about Rashad White, and maybe that's the rose colored glasses and sitting here talking in April. But I'm excited about what he can bring, potentially as the guy, but at least as a 1B option 2 type of guy.
So if we do take Jeremiah Love somehow miraculously at number 7, who stays and who goes in the running back room?
I think, unfortunately, that makes Jeremy McNichols a little expendable. I could still see him being on the team because of special teams, but I definitely think Jerome Ford would be gone at that point. I
Yeah.
think you would have everything you need in Love, White, and Bill.
Mhm.
So I definitely think Jerome Ford. This team kept 4 running backs last year, if I'm not mistaken, at some point at least.
Mhm.
So, I wouldn't be shocked that Jerry McNichols stays, but I'd be shocked if Jerome Ford was on this roster week 1 if that scenario plays out
Yeah.
with Jerry McNichols being kind of a toss up there.
All right. Well, let's get to the downy dumpies, the
Yeah,
worst signing if there is one.
yeah,
Uh, let's see. For me, I'm gonna have to go Jerome Ford. We just
okay,
heard when I saw that pop up, I literally said, "What are we doing?" Because we just re-signed McNichols, Chris Rodriguez left, we got Rashad White, Bill's back. So I was like, "Why are we bringing in Jerome Ford?" Still don't understand why. I guess he could be the Chris Rodriguez type back that we have, but we already have McNichols for that, I think. I still think McNichols and Jeremy Ford are similar backs.
yeah,
Um, I think McNichols might can catch the ball in the backfield a little bit more, but they love his pass protection. I don't know about Jerome Ford's pass protection, but they love McNichols' pass
right.
protection. I think that's what earned him another contract with us, at least right now in April. But it has to be Jerome Ford, journeyman guy. I mean, he wasn't that big of a stud. He just, he didn't move the needle for me at all. Jerome Ford is my worst. I don't
Yeah,
care.
I think he just kinda fills out the room, and if they're not able to improve anymore or get Jeremiah Love,
Yeah.
he's at least an NFL running back. Yeah, but I agree with you. I would almost rather not almost, I would rather have Chris Rodriguez back. It
Yeah.
kinda to me, if you think back 5, 6 years ago when, Ron Rivera had Peyton Barber, and he was
Oh,
almost like their
yeah.
short down yardage back. I wonder if there's a scenario for him to where he weirdly has a handful of touchdowns when we look up in the middle of the season. I hope that's not the case because I agree. I don't think he's super athletic like you think you got with some of these other backfield options, and as
Mhm.
the team as a whole got more athletic. So yeah, kind of an interesting fit for me. I'm gonna say Van Jefferson. I
Okay.
don't think he moves the needle for this offense. Again, like I said, I think he raises the floor. I think he's a better option than some of the receivers they had out there last year. But
Yeah.
I do wonder if you were going to go with a veteran, if you could have gotten something more exciting, a little bit more valuable. I would have even taken Juwan Jennings, who's still out there. Maybe was this a pivot after they weren't able to get Romeo Dobbs and Alec Pierce? I just don't think that Van Jefferson really offers a lot, and I hope that he's not blocking them from getting another receiver out
Mhm.
there. Certainly, I think they can still improve the receiver room, but I don't know that Van Jefferson is a place that you want to settle on, and I don't. No offense to the guy, I don't think that you
No.
want him out there in meaningful situations, but,
Right.
uh, I kinda understand it, but at the same time, I think that there were better and are better options out there if you wanted to get a veteran, for the wideout room.
I agreed with you too. I think that the Van Jefferson move could have happened, like, during training camp or right before training
Yeah, yeah,
body. Yeah, he had a Super Bowl, but that was how many years ago?
right.
And also had Aaron Donald to help him and Matthews like, it was a while ago.
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah, they could have went a different route. Jawan Jennings, Keenan Allen, I'd rather give him that
yeah.
contract than Van Jefferson, but yeah, Van, no offense, that's a camp biting move. I just find it really interesting we made that signing late March, early
Yeah.
April, so, mm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he's on the team. I'm not I'd never want a guy to be cut. I know that that's a tough way to live
Right,
your NFL career, but
right.
it is interesting to see what they do. Um, here's something for you. I was thinking about this, before we wrap up here,
Sir.
there are obviously questions about what they're gonna do with pick 7. I think there are, plenty of guys they can take on the defensive side of the ball. There are definitely a couple of playmakers that they could take with pick number 7. I'm gonna kinda plant my flag. I say, regardless of what they do at 7, I'm gonna say that, they at least take an offensive player with one of their first 2 picks, whether it be 7 or 71. I think an offensive player certainly should be a part of their plans.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? How much, if you were wagering an imaginary number, how confident would you be in them taking an offensive player early in this draft?
I'm confident because they see the mock drafts, they hear the fans, they hear everybody, like, they're not stupid, we're not stupid, they know that what they're doing, but yeah, first 2 picks for sure. Because like you said, we didn't address the explosive on the offense side of the ball in free agency, so the draft is where it's gotta happen, or else it probably won't happen from here on out. So, I don't think that offense is worthy for number 7 with the offensive targets out there in the draft, like Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, some other skill players on the side of the ball. But 71, yeah, I could definitely see us grabbing some kind of offensive weapon that could maybe complement Terry McLaurin, could complement the running back room, could complement the tight end room. I don't want it to be a lineman, to be honest. I think our O
No.
line has been pretty decent, and we haven't been able to say that in a long time. So I think the
And
past
you've
few
invested a lot of money,
yeah,
in the offensive line
so
to take another top 100 pick, in my opinion.
mhm, yeah, so yeah, I can see that definitely happen. Just not number 7. Go at number 71 or take that 71 and trade back up, like, do whatever you want with 71, but just make sure that 2nd pick is 1 or 2 is offense.
Well, in a couple of weeks, we won't have to speculate. We won't have to guess. We won't have to read another mock draft, which don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. If I see mock draft and I see that it's a current date, I'm looking at it.
Mhm.
However, I'm ready for the real thing, and it's
Yes.
coming up, and it's coming up soon, and we will cover it all. Again, next week, we'll go over the defensive side of the ball and some of the moves they have made there. We'll talk about the uniforms, which will be out by this time next week. We'll have a lot to talk about, and then we'll be 1 week closer to the draft. But that'll do it for the command post. Another great episode. Be sure
Sir.
to like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Tell your mom, tell your mom's friends, tell your friend, tell your friends' moms.
Yep.
Go and like and subscribe. Trying to get this thing off the ground. Excited to bring you content each and every week.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate you listening, watching in. Go and check out some of the graphics and things that Trev's put together. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes, sir. Like Brian said, I couldn't say anything else to go after that. So I'm Trevor. That's Brian. This is the Command Post. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Nice. Very nice.
Sweet, man.